right, well, obviously we have to start off by introducing you, so please tell us who you are and what you do.
So I'm Cory, and I own Green Wrench Heavy Equipment, and I'm a mobile heavy equipment mechanic.
And how did you come to be in this position?
So, as far as getting into business for myself, I was working for a company. I was the maintenance manager there, and it was kind of a random spiral of different things. So I had actually bought a brand new Snap-on toolbox, and the price tag on it was pretty
Yep.
ridiculous. And I was working out of one shop, but then all the way across the parking lot, which was about 600 feet away, was where the main maintenance facility was, or where the actual production facility was. And trying to cart all 3,000 pounds or whatever worth of tooling across the parking lot was getting a little ridiculous. So I started throwing stuff in my. I had a little '08 4Runner, and I would start throwing tools in the back of that. Well, after a few times of getting some grease stains in that, I was like, well, I guess I'll just buy a little beat up pickup, no big deal, and then I can just throw stuff in the back of that and take it over. And I actually happened to find my very first service truck, the little white one, for a song and a dance with a blown engine, and I was like, well, we'll buy it and fix it up and kind of see what happens. I bought that service truck for about a third of the price that I bought that Snap-on box
Yeah.
for.
Isn't that
Built it up.
crazy?
Yeah, I know it is. I dumped a lot of money into the engine, but I was like, well, we'll just throw this at it. Well, I guess we can throw that at it. The next thing I knew, I had kind of a mild, wild build, I guess you could say. But I threw all my tools in that, and then a really good buddy of mine, he kept saying, why don't you just get into business for yourself? And I was like, nah, man, that's not really my bag. And he was like, you really should. So after a few months of him telling me that I really should, and that we wouldn't be friends anymore if I didn't
Nah.
start my own business, I did. And then I had a couple of old coworkers that they ventured off and started their own business, and they were looking for a mechanic. So I started off kind of slowly working for some other people, and it just kind of spiraled from there. So as far as getting onto my own, it was kind of just luck of the draw. I kind of pushed into it and got pushed into it, I guess. So
Okay. All right. That's awesome. I love it. And today's a special day, right?
it is. Yep. Today is the 4-year anniversary. So
That's awesome.
4 years in
Congratulations.
business. Thank you.
Are
Thank
you
you.
are you in the black? Hopefully you're in the black now. That
uh,
Snap-on toolbox still sitting over there taking your
no,
payments.
no. I ended up getting rid of that because I was like, why do I need a toolbox if I've got a
Right,
service
right.
truck? So
Good.
yeah.
Well, so tell us if you wouldn't mind sharing how old you are.
31.
Okay. Finally, someone my age.
Yeah.
Everyone that I've had on so far has been young. I'm so surprised, pleasantly surprised that there are
Yeah.
so many young people getting into it and taking it so seriously and having such a mature attitude about the career path and everything. And so that's actually gives me a lot of hope and just I think we're going to be okay. I obviously and I'm sure it's the same way out there that our industry struggles to find talent or is going to really struggle here once this like gray wave retires and all
Yeah.
of that knowledge and that talent leaves and all of the gaps that's going to fill or leave to be filled behind it. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm happy that there are a lot of young people getting into it and so that's awesome. So at 31, so you started this 4 years ago. So you're what, 27?
Yep.
Okay. That's a lot for someone at 27 to start their own business. A little intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely pretty taxing because for the first year and a half or so, almost 2 years, I was still working for the environmental or the wastewater treatment facility. I was still working for them as a full time employee. I say that loosely because I was working like 90 hours a week for them, and
Oh my God.
then yeah, and that was like Monday through Saturday, sometimes on a Sunday. and then after hours, I would go out in my little service truck and I would go and work on equipment after hours or on the weekends or whatever. So there was the majority of the weeks, it would be 80 to 90 hours for the wastewater treatment facility, and then another 20 to 30, maybe 40 hours a week for my little outfit. So it was, there was definitely a lot going on.
That sounds
A lot of
exhausting.
times sleeping in the truck or, taking a quick little cat nap at the office or
Yep.
whatever. So,
And that's another trend that I'm seeing too after doing these interviews, because of a couple people ago I did a friend of mine who's now the VP at Alta Equipment, which is a really big rental company out here. And he was bought out by Alta, and his business he started from the back of him and his wife's Suburban. He started a mobile equipment repair company like you did, and yeah, he would tell me about how he was sleeping in there. He'd drive out to a job somewhere, sleep for a few hours, then get up and have to do the rest, another part of the job, and then sleep for a few hours. I mean, you guys are tough, man. The things that you do for your trade is really inspiring.
thank you. Yeah, I actually watched your interview with him, and I related to him on so many different levels.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool to be able to see that.
Good. Well, and look where he's at now. So who knows where you're gonna end up?
I know, right?
Because he grew that to like 27 trucks, and then Alta bought him. So anything's possible. That's what I like about doing these too. Is we're kind of showing the kids who are maybe considering a different career path, or not, not a 4-year degree, who are looking at the trades. This is like the last industry where you can start at the bottom and end at the top. Literally.
Yeah, it's very true.
So, and now you're married. I
Yes.
saw that your wife put out an awesomely supportive story on Instagram today, which is great.
Yeah.
How long have you guys been married?
Oh, let's see. Working on 5 years now?
Okay, so she's been through this whole journey with you.
Yes.
And how has that been?
She's very patient, which I'm very grateful for. She's definitely rolled with the punches with me, so
Good.
super grateful for that. I mean, it's definitely been tough. A lot of nights where we don't get to see each other. A lot of nights where I come in super late and she's already been asleep for a few hours, and then I'll wake up early and she's still crashed out. So it's definitely been tough in that regard, but it's kept a roof over our heads and food in our tummies. So
Yep. Good.
life could be worse.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like you guys are doing pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, thanks.
And you have a good team dynamic going on here. So,
yeah.
What do you like most about the job?
Oh, now that I own the company, I never have to cater to the owner saying, well, let's just do it on the cheap. Even though I know in my heart, like, that's not the right way. We should not half-ass this.
Yep.
We should pursue doing it the correct way. Now, that I kind of run the show, I can say, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. We need to make sure that we do it the correct way as opposed to trying to save a dollar right now.
Yep. Okay.
So I like that a lot. And then I would say making my own schedule, but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a pushover for the customer. I make sure I take care of the jobs and stay out late or come in early or whatever it needs to be. So I would love to be able to say it's, the freedom of owning my own company. But
Right.
It's not.
No, it's really not. And you hear that from a lot of entrepreneurs, that there's kind of this glamorization of it. And once you're in it, you realize it's not.
Yeah, seriously.
So, now how does your schedule fill up? How many clients do you keep on at any one time? What does that look like? What does a contract look like, I guess?
So all of my customers are repeat customers.
Okay.
Right now I'm actually in kind of a really, I don't want to say a rough position, but it's kind of an interesting dynamic right now because all of my customers continuously use me and they keep referring me to people, and I've already got an overwhelmingly full book, and I keep on getting pushed these new customers, and then I'll go out and do a meet and greet with them, or I'll go out and do a job for them, and then the next next thing I know, I'm maintaining their, all of their equipment or their centrifuges or, whatever else it is. So right now, as far as, as far as that is concerned, it's honestly, it's a little bit chaotic.
Yeah.
So, I've got some guys that are on like a regular maintenance schedule that we pursue doing it on, however many hours or whatever the piece of equipment needs. But as far as, trying to balance all of that, it's getting a little bit out of hand. So,
Okay.
I don't do, and I don't have the one hit wonders. I would say in the past 4 years of business, I've had maybe 3 or 4 people that have used me once and then not used me again.
Okay.
So
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good retention rate, I would say.
I think so.
Good. So now it sounds like you work on a pretty wide range of different types of equipment between your wastewater treatment with the centrifuges, your heavy mobile equipment like your construction equipment. What else are you working on?
So now I actually got hooked up with a company. They have centrifuges, but they actually don't handle wastewater. They manufacture juices.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got hooked up with that company. We're working on all their centrifuges. So not just limited to the wastewater aspect. But then I get into directional drilling. So a lot of that, but I mean, I guess that ties in with heavy equipment. And then a lot of my customers have, just like their runaround diesel pickups and stuff like that. So work on those too. But usually I try and stop at like an F-250 or,
Okay.
2500. Anything that and below, I
Yeah.
usually don't. It's not my bag.
Right. Okay. What's your favorite thing to work on?
I would say wastewater.
Yeah.
Even though it's pretty gross, not a lot of people want to do it, and it intrigues me. It's a lot more fun than your typical excavators and stuff like that. And then right after that is going to be the drilling industry. So
Okay.
a lot of the drill rigs that I work on will be soil stabilization.
Yep.
So those are a lot of fun because they can be a little bit on the complex side for hydraulics. A couple of the customers that I've had in the past have had me do like repowers. So we'll mount a drill rig on the end of an excavator. So doing all the hydraulic work, all the electronics to be able to run everything. That's pretty close on the tails for wastewater.
Okay. I've toured like Chicago's massive wastewater treatment facility here, and it's pretty amazing the machinery that they have in those places and what they have to do and the power that there has to be to lift the water and to. I mean, it's impressive. People don't realize what goes down the drain, where it goes, and what it has to go through. So,
Yeah.
and it's awesome that you have this niche, this kind of skill set behind you to work on that equipment because I have a feeling not a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Which is great for retaining business.
It is. And with being, since there aren't a whole lot of people that do that in the Portland metro area, and I'm sure that there are a handful, it's pretty interesting when you go to some of these companies that, like balancing something that's 10,000 pounds. Not a lot of people have the equipment to balance that. So I kind of, I'll pick their brain and ask them, like, how often do you guys get centrifuges or, decanters or, any this big type of stuff? And they're like, well, not really all that often. So you're one of our regulars, if you will. So that, for me, that's kind of promising, I should say, just because that tells me that there aren't really a lot of people that are doing that. So,
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I'm trying to focus a little bit more of my energy towards that.
Okay. What do you see for your 5-year plan? Where do you see yourself here in like 5 years or so?
So, right now, as absolutely terrifying as it is, I am going to start putting feelers out for hiring somebody on.
Okay.
And that's right there, that gets my heart going a little bit.
I bet.
So, 5 years, I would really love to be able to hire on a handful of people. I actually just yesterday kind of started getting the ball rolling on pricing for new truck, new service body, so that when I do hire somebody on, once I can find out that they're competent enough to be able to handle the job and the uniqueness of some of the equipment that we work on, then I'll just buy a new truck, new box, and send them in that so that we don't have to worry about any issues of breakdowns or
Yeah.
anything silly like that. So, 5 year plan, yeah, hire on a handful of people and try and start pursuing that.
Good. I like it. All right. What is the significance behind the name Green Wrench?
So, when I first moved up to Portland, I was working on a fishing boat out of Depot Bay, which is on the Oregon coast, and we were doing these like 5 hour fishing trip tours. We would do like whale watching and stuff like that. But a couple that came out on the fishing boat, they actually offered me a job up here in Portland, working at a pretty large environmental drilling outfit. And I started working there, and I was actually supposed to be a driller's assistant and then move up to be a driller. And they did environmental sampling, remediations, and different aspects of soil cleaning like
Right.
that. And I saw that there's going to be good money in it, but then the environmental impact of trying to be green, trying to be clean, and be efficient. There's a lot of value in that, I think. So as far as Green Wrench is concerned, I try as hard as I can to be environmentally conscious. Make sure I recycle as much as I can. Make sure I get rid of waste oil and oil filters and everything in the appropriate manner. So there's definitely a heavy influence of trying to keep the environment clean. The builds that I've done on both of my service trucks have been, it's never been in light of power and trying to get like all the horsepower and all the torque. It's always been, how can I make this thing as clean and efficient as possible and get the best miles per gallon out of the rig so that we can be efficient. So,
And so
and
then what kind of oil are you running in it? Are you going with
AMSOIL.
are you going, of course you're an AMSOIL guy. Why am I not surprised one bit? I tell everybody that I meet that runs like AMSOIL or Kendall, I'm like, you guys are like this little cult. And you can always tell when somebody's an AMSOIL guy. But lighter viscosity grade? Are you 1030? 540?
I usually run the 540.
Nice. Look at that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, thus far, I've found no issue with running the 540 as opposed to, the shops that I've worked in the past when there was, the good old boy that's been around forever. He always ran the Dello 1540. That's what we run. And I ran that for, a number of years for all the fleets and everything and never had any issue with it. And then when I got going on my own, I was like, well, maybe let's try and see if we can get something a little bit better as far as oil goes so that we don't have to worry about any issues in the future. So,
Well, you probably have like a lot of idle time. You probably have a lot of stop go.
so
No, really? Okay.
well, a lot of stop and go, yeah. But as far as idle time goes, I'd rather take out a starter every year that's
Yeah.
$130 than go and have all that extra fatigue, all the extra wear and tear on the engine,
Right.
and let it sit there and idle. Plus, then you got to smell the exhaust all day.
Yeah, that's true.
Come on.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad you're liking the 540. Look, I gotta incorporate oil into this somehow, right?
Oh, of course.
Well, that's a perfect segue to my question that I have to ask is, how important would you say oil and lubrication is in your job?
So the easiest way that I can say this is I have made a lot of money off of people not lubricating their equipment well enough. So when you go and tell that to a customer, and I have a pretty good relationship with a lot of my customers, I'm pretty lighthearted and I joke around a lot. And I tell them, hey, I noticed you guys are running that piece of equipment pretty low on oil. So for my next service truck, what do you think I should get? And that kind of perks their eyes up a little bit. And they, huh? I'm like, well, I mean, you're going to be buying me a new service truck pretty soon if you keep running stuff out of oil. So,
I like it.
yeah, I mean, it's a little threat,
Yeah,
but so I mean, with that, yeah, I mean, obviously, it's very vital to the industry. I mean, we have to run oil, we have to run good oil. We can't use no name brand nonsense and then risk. I mean, what do you risk? An extra $50 for a service to run something
right.
that isn't quality?
Yep. It's cheap insurance. That's what I tell people.
It is.
So, good. Grease too. That all counts.
Oh yeah,
So, well, good. Thank you for that.
yeah.
I appreciate that. What I want to know your path before you started the company. What did you go to school for? Where did you go to school? What even before that did you know you wanted to do this or be in this type of position, so on and so forth.
So I actually have I would say a reasonably different story than a lot of people. I actually did not go to school. I did not go through any training other than company provided, tech school or tech classes that you would attend, 3 day seminar here or a couple of night seminars here and there for, air brakes, electrics, hydraulic diagnostics, stuff like that. So I actually did not go to any sort of formal training for doing this. So when I was younger, my dad was always working on the cars to try and keep everything up and running, and I was always kind of his right hand man, hanging out with him, handing him the wrenches, and trying to hold the light in the right spot. And I thought it was cool, and I found it interesting. So in my head, I was always like, man, I think it'd be cool to be a mechanic. And it kind of spiraled from there, and I ended up getting lucky when I lived at the coast, and it just so happened to be that I knew somebody that owned, or their father owned a repair shop. So I kind of got an in working, doing light duty automotive at a repair shop on the coast, and just got in essentially as an apprenticeship, working for him, working on all the light duty. And then I ended up, I tried to get out of it, and then that's why I was working on the fishing boat. And then it kind of sucked me back in when I came back, when I got up into Portland, and started working for the environmental drilling industry. That was back in 2000, what was it, 2008, 2009, where we had the big recession. And we ended up having maintenance manager that was not the greatest of guys. So they fired him. The mechanic that was under him moved up into his position, and they didn't want to get rid of me as an employee. And they said, "Hey, we know you have a mechanic's background. Would you mind working in the shop with the new foreman, and he can teach you about heavy equipment?" So kind of started doing a little bit of an apprenticeship under him, and then ended up, he was always out on road calls, and I was kind of left at the shop to fend for myself. So you kind of start picking things up pretty quickly when you're
Mm-hmm.
stuck on and they need the truck now.
How high was that learning curve? How long did that take you to really? You seem like you must have a mechanical brain for this kind of stuff to be able to pick these things up. I would have to imagine.
I would say, yeah. I really do feel like it's kind of one of those things, you either you have it or you don't. I feel like there's some of it, yeah, you can learn, but I've known people that have gone through school and they just don't have it. They've had 4.0 GPA going through Biotech or wherever, and they can't figure out the most simple of things, like, this is not an exaggeration, figuring out how to shake a rattle can, spray paint can, to try and paint something. Simple, trivial things like that it eluded them. So when I was working at working doing light duty automotive, the owner of that company was always absent, and he kind of threw me to the wolves. And the first job that I ever did was putting valve covers back on a little Corsica, like a Chevy Corsica, and his way of telling me how to do it was match the dirt on the bolts to where they go and torque everything to spec.
Oh my god.
Okay, I think I can do that. Car never came back, and then the next thing was Subaru head gasket, and I ended up, doing that. I had to get some serious help from we had one other guy that worked there, and he was kind of a grouchy old fellow, and he would help me out here and there, and he was like, just remember where you took everything off, put it in a specific place, and then put it all back together and torque everything back. Okay, so kind of got like a little bit of a steep learning curve there to be able to figure things out. And I just kind of applied that same principle overall. And so far it's worked out kind of well.
Good.
Yeah.
It must have worked out well. Well, that's awesome, and it's funny that you say that this is how you came to be where you are, because I have customers who tell me that, at least on the automotive side, more so, that the best hires that they have are kids right out of high school, with no formal training, no advanced degree or no technical degree, because they are able to just be molded into whatever that company needs them to be, and they don't have those bad habits that they bring in or may have formed elsewhere. And so I commend you for doing what you do, and taking
Thank you.
that path. How would you say Instagram has helped your business?
Oh, honestly, for me, I don't know that it's actually gained me any extra business. Well, definitively, it has not gained me any extra business. It's more so than anything, it's been a good resource to be able to capture and hold pictures of some of the intricate jobs that I do, so that when I do happen to go and do a site walk or a visit with a new customer, and they say, well, okay, especially when I was starting out, a 27, 28-year-old guy, do you really know what you're doing? And then I can pull up pictures and say, well, here's, what I've done.
It's like
As
a live
opposed to
resume.
as
Yeah.
opposed to trying to scroll through your whole entire photo book. Most of my stuff on Instagram is, work related.
Yep.
And then it has helped out a little bit with being able to get in touch with some people that are like across the country, maybe being able to try to find parts that
Okay.
are a little bit more scarce around this area. So it's helped out a little bit in that avenue.
Or have you ever reached out to another person in your position on there for advice on a job or technical support, or even could you see yourself using it? I feel like it may be a good hiring tool, because you have this exposure and people are going to be familiar with your name and who you are. They might be excited to come work for you.
Yes. So as far as that goes, that's probably going to be my first method for trying to hire somebody on is
Okay.
put out some feelers with some of the people that I know, and see if they have anybody that they know. Okay, this person is worth their salt, and they would be a good asset. So yeah, as far as that goes, Instagram might be a potential good hiring spot, or at least be able to find somebody that knows somebody.
Right.
But as far as like technical assistance from people, as of right now, not a whole lot. But there is a guy that's on Instagram that I am sure I'm going to be using his knowledge for some of the centrifuge stuff that I do. So
Awesome. Very
yeah.
cool. All right. Well, what about any advice that you would give to someone considering a career path like this, whether that be just as far as like a mechanic or owning your own business? Any advice?
As far as being a mechanic, listen to everyone. I can sometimes have a bad time of. I've gotten lucky a handful of times on figuring things out and fixing things, but there's been a few times where I've been humbled by somebody that was not a mechanic and they had a good idea. So kind of just shut up and listen to everyone. Even if it's not a good idea, sometimes it can kind of bring you to the right idea by being such a bad idea.
Sure.
So that would be one thing. Another thing is really paying attention to your surroundings. Not just everything that's like in the room, but paying attention to your surroundings on the unit directly. Finding all of the extra little oil leaks, finding all the extra coolant leaks. Anything that can be considered useful for being able to repair and diagnose something. Being overly observant as an employee has actually gotten me in trouble by being overly observant. But now that I'm an independent, that has been tremendous in my success because people are like, well, I had no idea that I had an issue with that. It's like, well, there you go. And then as far as getting out and, kind of trying to run your own show, just be nice to everyone because you never know who is going to refer you to who.
That's exactly right.
So when I very first started off, the first year or so, 90% of my clientele was people that I started off cold calling people. I had nobody to refer me, word of mouth. It was all cold calls. So, and the first year or so, it was about 90% were people that I cold called, and then slowly started trickling into, you know, flipping the pendulum the other way. And now 95, 98% of my clientele are people that have referred me to other people. So, and it's always the most random thing now. Like the company that I just recently got hooked up with, they are a rather large company, and it was all because I was personable with the people that balanced the centrifuge for me. They liked me, they liked my attitude, and they thought that I was decent at what I did, and they referred me to these guys, and it's been very beneficial. So being nice to everyone because everyone can be your ally.
Oh, and I couldn't agree more. It's the same thing in my industry. And it's funny because I live in such a large populous area, but it's still such a small industry because I typically focus on construction and trucking. I do have some other automotive and like plastic injection molding, but it's a small industry, and I can't tell you how many times I've run into old customers that left a company and went to a new company, and now I'm working with this new company, and there they are again. And luckily, we had a good relationship before, and I maintained that relationship, and so it definitely, you never want to burn any bridges.
Yep.
Yep. That's great advice.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think, what else would you like to share with the world about our industry, about the trades, about what you do? Here's one for you. Here's a question. What is your least favorite part of the job?
Oh, yeah.
The hours.
The hours, yeah. I mean, was it last weekend or the weekend before? I have zero time to myself. Every once in a while, I'll go out and be able to play around a little bit, but it's it's definitely at a point right now where when I show up to a friend's get together, they're like, "Oh, you actually made it."
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
Thanks, I know. A couple weekends ago, my wife and I were driving up to Central Washington, and I had to have her drive the truck so that I could do invoices. I mean, it's kind of a never-ending cycle of trying to get caught up,
Yeah.
trying to make sure your paperwork is legit, and dealing with all of that. So, yeah, the hours are definitely my least favorite.
I have seen you get out and do some skimboarding this summer and some
Yeah,
fun-looking things here and there, so that's good.
A little bit of jet skiing. I think that the few times that I went jet skiing, every morning before going jet skiing, I actually had a job in the morning.
Oh,
so
wow.
by the time we went out jet skiing, I had already worked like 6 or 8 hours.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome though. You have a great work ethic.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's anything else you want to put out there.
Oh, would highly recommend if somebody is looking to get out on their own, practice your cold calling, because that has been, that has been the pinnacle of the difficulty for trying to find new customers. But I would say I got kind of lucky, because I'm kind of goofy, kind of personable, so like I get a little bit lucky with some of the cold calls. But yeah, if you're looking to go out on your own, learn how to cold call really well. Practice on your friends, whatever it needs to be. But yeah, definitely, if you're looking to go out on your own, that would be something that should work on and make sure that you're proficient with.
No, that's great. You're always selling yourself, so that
It's
is
true.
good advice. Have you seen, being that you aren't independent, has COVID or anything else that's gone on this year affected your business?
Not at all. I have not been affected at all. There was a random lull, which there always is around mid to late February, where there's a little bit of a lull in business. And I would say that probably this year hung on for an extra week or two.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's been full steam ahead. Everybody's calling, and it just it kind of came out of nowhere. Where in one day I had five new customers call me up out of nowhere that were all referrals, and then it spiraled again from there. So I was definitely worried about COVID affecting the business, but thankfully it has not.
Good. Same for me. I'm thankful as well. It's been a busy year. I've had a great year so far. What we're concerned about is delayed effects of this coming into next year with budgeting and things like that. There's loss of tax revenues, so like the municipalities aren't going to be doing some of the jobs that they had planned to do, and so that's going to be interesting, I think. And the election, of course, that's going to make things interesting as well. But hopefully, we just keep on full steam ahead.
Yeah, seriously.
So
yeah, I will be very curious to see what happens with next year and budgets and everything like that. Because right now, the big players out here, the big construction outfits, I mean, they're booming. The roads are all getting, well, not all the roads, but a lot of the big roads out here are getting repaved.
Yeah.
Big city work is getting done, and I'm like, that's good, but I'm a little bit scared for later.
Right, exactly. I know. We'll see. Hopefully people were smart and have kind of stored some things away.
Yeah.
So that they can get through a downturn if there is one from this, but
yeah.
Yeah, well good, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that you've have just been balls to the wall, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I've been very fortunate with that. So no complaints here.
Good. Well, I really thank you for doing this. We're already at like 40, 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because we started at like, what, 9:20 my time? 7:20 your time?
Oh, wow.
So it goes by fast. It does. It's
Yeah,
easy to talk, especially when you're passionate about something. It's really easy to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring you on. We were kind of talking about this before we got started and introduced you because you are an independent. Like I mentioned, that I've had a lot of dealer technicians and rental company technicians and things like that come on who work for someone or who work for an OEM. It's nice to get a different perspective from the industry because there are so many different paths you can take.
Yeah.
So, and I think you represent it very well.
Well, thank you.
And I like to do this. I decided to do this year because someone like yourself is going to be my main contact at a customer who I'm working with, who I'm trying to sell to. And I noticed that you guys really kind of go underappreciated. If it's not for you, our job sites are not running. And so I wanted to do this interview series to really kind of pay tribute to all that you guys have to do and what a great career path it is in our industry.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure that everybody else would agree, but definitely appreciated.
Good. I'm glad. Anything else that you could think of?
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
We covered a lot of it.
Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot of ground. Yeah, I'm Sure. I would say. I mean, this is my first time ever doing any sort of interviewing, so
Good.
yeah, I'm at a little bit of a loss for
I know
uh,
it's kind of tough.
think. Yeah, seriously. What do you do?
Yep. Well, I'm happy that you were able to come on and we were able to connect. It's fun doing this kind of stuff, and now I know you better, and and doing things like this and like Instagram for me too has just the friendship network that it's created all over the place. Like today I have a guy from Ireland who's wanting my stickers and who's saying, we're watching your stuff over here. I'm like, what? This is insane. So I just think it's so awesome that we've gotten to meet and have the chance to do stuff like this.
Yeah, for sure. It was pretty cool. Back in March, a friend of mine and I went to Con Expo, and it was really cool to be able to like do a meet and greet with some of these people that you've been talking to for months, and it's like, holy shit.
Who did you meet up with? Did you go to BuildWit's thing?
No.
No. Oh, okay.
He, we were at like the same bar together, but I didn't do any meet and greet with him. I was happy hanging out with a couple of other people that we were hanging out with. I had actually just started following Isaac Icyweld.
Okay.
I just started following him maybe like a month or so prior. So it was super cool to be able to meet him. He's a super, super nice guy.
Nice.
He and his wife. And then Sam Roberts, I think he's Caveman 433.
Okay.
Got to meet up with him, and he's just like the nicest guy.
Oh, good. Well, that's like I met Nate. I met Nate there, weld scientist. Okay. Yeah, that's how he actually referred me to you and said you need to go follow this guy, and I think he'd be great for one of your upcoming interviews.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Yep. Yeah, Nate's a local here, so I can see him whenever.
He doesn't count.
Yeah. Old news. Actually, I don't even know if I saw him while we were up there. I think maybe we passed by, but I don't think we actually hung out with him.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm sad that I didn't get to run into you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I was following you back then.
No, we probably weren't yet at that point, but we probably crossed paths and didn't even realize it.
I know, right? There's probably like a photo somewhere where it's like,
right.
They're so close to each other.
Right, yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, this was a super cool opportunity to be able to do something definitely out of the norm. So
I'm telling everybody that I talk to as well that we're going to catch up in a few years to see where you're at. We're going to do another little follow-up series.
Nice.
So
yeah, that'd be super exciting.
Yep.